Hey everyone, welcome to January 17th, 2026. Coaching call. It is 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to check in for a market snap shot. Okay. So pulling out on the Bitcoin daily, right? Clearly we had the break from balance, which this volatility contraction that we talked about ahead of time preceded. It predicted a high probability that we were going to have a directional trend. And I said the odds were slightly higher for the bulls because of the zero line reject setup right here. Now that we broke up there, right, we have a hook from extreme, which is a bearish reversal setup. And even though it looks similar to a breakout here, we broke, then went sideways and broke up. I mean, anything's possible, right? We could go to a moving average, right? But this time, because when we did this last time, all you had was this smaller high volume node that was roughly similar in size to this one, a little bit bigger. This time you have a whole slew of market structure because of this pattern here, which looks like a double top, right? In some respects. I mean, technically it was a triple top after 8 leg counts up from around a 15,000 PPT recommendation by in 2023. Okay, so if we do leg count up, 8 leg counts is prime for a mega reversal. We did get a reversal. Now, is this pattern similar to this? I mean, obviously, right? If you look at levels, you see what happened, right? But you have to look at the market context as well. This time we are pushing up into, if we just zoom in a bit, a mega high volume node that wasn't there before when we were going up in this frame of time. We have a giant high volume node here that spans like here. We had a launching point here. We came back, couldn't even really get to the VPOC, but we got to the node. See, the high volume node is the node around the VPOC. The VPOC is the red line or the actual price that Bitcoin spent the most time transacting at, and the node is the general area around it. So we couldn't even get there. So we had a buying tail. Then we broke right through it. When you break right through a key reference area that acted as strong support or resistance in the past, if the unexpected happens and you break right through it because the sustained momentum's high, then you usually get a strong follow through. And we did, so it's confirming it. Then we went up there, we couldn't even get there again. And now we kind of broke back up into it and pushed back down. Now this bounce, right? It might be similar in time to this, not similar, maybe even similar in length. But like I said, once again, it's coming up into a high volume node that wasn't there before. It's sitting on top of balance breakdown that's much bigger in time when we broke down from it than this balance breakout. This balance breakdown pattern is bigger in time than this balance breakout. So it should be noted that you could have a strong reaction there. I mean, it's enough for me to actually get a really nervous about maybe being short term exhausted into here and maybe getting a larger retracement before we then maybe have a stronger move up. I mean, that's sort of the idea behind some of my recent decisions, which have kept me up all night recently, and so on. So, but like I said, anything could happen. Um, if we were thinking like sort of like a pullback continuation pattern, pullback continuation pattern, what I would like to see is a zero line reject like this, showing that we're short term exhausted to the downside to have an up move. As it stands, we're kind of going sideways near that. Like I said, when I zoomed out and included all the rest of the data, very strong. See how it switches, and then that becomes the big one once we zoom out. High volume node. So with the hook from extremes. Now, a couple other charts that I'm looking at that are also worth considering. Let's just zoom out, go on the weekly. Now, there's certain things about the weekly that I do like. I mean, the RSI has crossed, but like I said, I like to get that weekly close to see really whether it's confirmed it is above this historical 20 line, but it could just be going sideways before this, maybe possibly goes a little bit lower. We also have a historic moving average that is flipped rolls as both support and resistance up here acting as resistance, and short term, which affects us more on a daily basis than this, right, which is more of a leading indicator predicting things about the future. This is more historical about the momentum, so it's more recent. But this might predict something in the later term, and this is more maybe more tomorrow. or the week, right, is this inverse. Like we had a Shamu predict the breakout. That's one of the things on the weekly I added to the daily call CCI reading, which was slightly different because each time frame CCI would have its own pattern, and then you got to time it. This Shamu, right, is now morphed into an inverse zero line reject, which because this is a rising wedge pattern, I mean, how much? I mean, it's either going to become this or it's going to be reversal here, in my opinion. So the bigger picture pattern is almost this rising wedge, which actually tends to be a bearish pattern in the short term. Even though one would just look at this and say, okay, well, this is a balanced breakout, this is a balanced breakout, it broke out. Like I said, there's slightly different context here, which then could surprise everyone. And that's the one that I think the system has a slightly higher odds, unfortunately, right now. That doesn't mean we come back to 88 or whatever to and then we start bouncing again. I don't know. Just we were coming up there right now. Um, I'll even show you on the lower time frame here. Okay, that once we did have this balanced breakout, we certainly what we don't want to happen is a move that would then come back into this balance, right? Because then like the next zone will be the high volume node. Each one of these lines is a resistance zone. So blue arrows are shorts that were given live in the channel, and green arrows are longs that were given live in the channel. So what I don't like that we went up here, made a double top, and potentially like having one of these double top false breakout patterns but then maybe this then wouldn't be a bigger picture bounce breakup, but then this would then just be expanding the range sideways, right? We'd have to really start to have momentum breakout for this pattern to have some dominance. Like so simply a lack of strength here can produce that pattern that we don't want, which would be that false breakout pattern. So and just zooming out even one higher time frame than this, let's go to the monthly. Kevin, you can see that monthly screen?
Yes, it can.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Okay, great. Just checking in. So even on the monthly here, right, the RSI hasn't crossed, right? So this is still in a bearish pattern. So like what I'm trying to say is that we might, even if we go up a little bit higher than here, there's something about this where maybe this could be a failed rally type energy, is what the thesis was kind of this. And we'll zoom out a little bit, then we'll go back down since you just came here, but it's on the replay. But yeah, I mean, the monthly hasn't crossed, right? We're coming up here. We know there's always usually sort of a problem when we come up to the zero line. And if this does fail here, I mean, this would be, right, a shoulder, a head, and then another shoulder, even if it pops up to 100. So like one of the decisions was, I was like, well, 100,000 is one of those special levels. We did get a rally up into it. What is my risk to reward here? Ideally, I think maybe 75%. I do have a little bit of as an overall asset, Bitcoin, Ethereum on, but basically it's almost a lot of it's off. But just for a runner's sake, but most of it is off. Alts I still have on just because of that shoulder possibility. And not that I want to put one weight on anything, but let's go to the edge. The ones I have marked education are just for like more of a not actionable for trading, but just as a thesis for an overall general trend. If we just look at this median line here, and we look at how price, and we can even zoom out, we can go even, this one's pretty good. This one goes out pretty far. We can just look at how this behaves here, right? Now, if we had crashed into here and we maintained this median line, I would be much more. I would not have probably made the choice I just made to reduce risk on my Bitcoin Ethereum. Keep in mind, I still have a large alts that are just, if they happen, they happen, man. I mean, alts are what they are. I don't think they can go down much more. Even if this crashes, I mean, you can even see there's a slight divergence now between Bitcoin and alts a little bit. Alts some of these alts are in the greens. double digits or 7% on theta, not even 9, 10, and Bitcoin, that's more sideways, remains to be seen. That's what we used to have in previous runs where, okay, now we're going to sell Bitcoin. Now we'll start buying alts. We never had that. It was like one was the beta of the other, and then it would just go flat and be totally decoupled from it in a bad way for alts. But, you know, just going back to how price behaved here. But the fact is, we did break through this median line here, and now we're going sideways up into it. Let's not kid ourselves. That's now resistance. See how it acted as support, and this was in 23, right? This was in 2023. But if you just look at the pattern, right? I know we went up here and we broke it, but beauty principle, I don't think that's where we are. I think we're more like, did we make a double top? Did we make a double top? Now we broke through the medium line, and now we're going around the medium line, and then we broke down into it, and then we had a bear market for a while, and then after the recovery of it, right, we started to go up above it. You see how we broke into it? Even though we're kind of trading around it, I just had to ask myself risk reward. It kind of, we can even go back and we'll back test a little bit more than this, but I think that's more of where we are. Does this not look boom, 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 boom? And then we broke through the medium line. See, we held it, went up, then we broke through it. Then we held it, went up, we held it here, we held it here, then we broke through it. Now we're going sideways around it, then we have a bounce breakdown. Then we have to go beauty principle away from the even lower band, and then this becomes a bear. See, we even haven't really had a bear yet, right? This is just an intermediate term downtrend so far, in my opinion. If you just zoom out to this weekly time frame, this is the intermediate term downtrend. The big picture's still up, but if it breaks down this, then it reverses on this weekly time frame. That's like more of what I'm positioning this thing as, even though I think I may have been early and we might get a rally that's going to cause some pain. But I just had to lock in some profits because I'm so exposed in alts right now. But that's how I see it. If we go back in time, we can look at times where it broke the rule, but so far twice that marked the top for a while, for sure. I mean, let's look at this. How long did this take to recover last time? May 7th, 22. Then it finally breaks out of that. Yeah, like over a year. I mean, that's a bear market, okay? And now we're going to go here, right? This is 20. Okay, so that's COVID. So COVID was the anomaly that actually broke the rule, right? We had in this bull run of June, the June 25th, and then we hit another top. We broke through, we went sideways, and then we broke above it. Strong V recovery, right? V sideways, dip, go, not even really a dip, just really strong. Also, you have in November 17th an even higher price, so we didn't even make that. So to get a new high, then it marked a huge rally, right? If we go back to similar run up, we make a top, we pull back, we break below it, we pop back up into it like where we are right now. Did it go on through? No, it went down. We had a bear market for June 18th to May 19th. Over, another bear market. You know what I mean? So this chart just from an investment. Now let's see if we can keep going here, if we can. June. Yeah, it's pretty much on the Coinbase, and the other one, I don't even think Bybit has as much data. It wasn't around as long. But even if you look, yeah, it's not as around as long, but these ones kind of stand out just from how they look. Now, if it breaks up through this, then it's like, okay, well, then this is might be a COVID situation. And, we can do something, but typically it takes a longer balance, right? And then even a balance on a bounce, then we get a big move. This more looks like up, up, head, shoulder, and then breakdown. Up, up, head. Do we get the thing here? Do we get the thing there? And then bam. But I don't know. That's interesting to me. The fact that this hasn't crossed, and we're kind of you could visualize one here. Now, keep in mind this is the confirmation of it would be if we broke through this. So, like a confirmation, more of a confirmation would be you would wait for this zone to break and then you would exit. But I'm selling into strength here, and I have left a little on for Bitcoin and Ethereum. What's up, Kevin? You got a
Question
question?
about, yeah, question about how you and if you consider what's going on in the markets as it relates to precious metals. There's like rotations, like you were just saying, between Bitcoin and the alts. Do you think that that could have an impact on Bitcoin?
Tough to say. All I'll say is that I think trading cryptocurrencies is the hardest markets to trade, especially if you trade alts as well as Bitcoin. So
Hmm.
it's almost unpredictable at this point.
Hmm.
Certain things because we could have that anomaly. I mean, I could apply this higher time frame chart to silver if you like. Let's see. Oh my God. So I mean, just out of pure principle, I know greed has to keep holding, but reversion to the mean, right? That would be brutal if you didn't capture some of that. I mean, look at this, right? Oh my
Yeah.
God, this thing's going to the moon. It's gonna be great. Sharp pullback, no one does anything. Hopium, right? That's the top signal. See how when it pulls away from this median line, it snaps back into it. And this is a very simple chart, but I mean, this has pulled standard deviations away. I mean, I got so excited, I pretty much pulled everything off my ledger in a sale in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I was like, well, did I leave the runner on? I do have some as an overall thing, as a runner on Coinbase, but I pretty much pulled everything on, even on my other exchanges in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So slightly overall, but not as much maybe as 25%. If you're having trouble selling silver, you could just like mail in 25% of it. Like the worst thing you are is you're wrong and it keeps going. It does suck. I mean, there's like a part of me that's like, I've been so stressed out about this. I'm like, no, I've been researching about like why you can't sleep at night. It's like basically our ancestors, if they were under a lot of stress, was just like stay up during the fires, like at night, and fire watch syndrome is what it's called. So I'm like, man, they get a little bit tired in the morning. It's because this is at a serious inflection point for the market. And I mean, look at silver. A lot of these assets are huge. I mean, you people have waited since 2011 for this. They've been talking about it. Can you imagine how happy people are? I mean, do you have any silver, precious metal?
Yep.
Which based on principles, not on emotion. What do you think right now? Obviously, quad exit, right?
Well,
Something.
it depends. I got in early on some of it, and then recently I bought some more. But what I've been reading is, the way there's the supply and demand of it,
Hmm.
is that they're supposedly experiencing a shortage in the market of, refined silver. And China just banned exports of silver for the first time. China's like 20% of the world's refining capacity. And the argument is that there's historically been manipulation and price suppression because when you look at gold and silver compared to inflation and money printing, the the general consensus is like the low end of what I've seen is $198 an ounce if it was pegged to currency without being manipulated, all the way up to 300 an ounce. And historically, gold and silver has been used as a store of wealth and as a medium of exchange. And so the studies I've seen have been like, okay, well, back in the day, what could you buy? 1 ounce of gold could buy you a nice suit, a top hat, shoes, and a certain amount of stuff. And when they levelize it to today, um, you know, some people believe that it's not going back down. Like this is the silver squeeze that's happening on the market because there's so much pent up demand because there's so much money printing and inflation that's happening so fast that people are basically just getting out of US dollars and getting out of fiat currency all around the world and putting into an asset that at a minimum holds the value, but currently it's obviously been appreciating and relative to the US dollar. And so, I the big banks are forecasting $100 this year, and some of them are forecasting even higher this year. But I do think there's a possibility that it does come back down, like it does spike down. But when you look at, like, for example, what I just posted in the chat was American Silver Eagles are kind of like the gold standard. Those are what's used for IRAs. So you can like have a self-directed IRA and you can put gold, silver, or silver eagles and gold eagles and, coined currency. You can't just put anything in an IRA. And so there's a premium on them. And they was moving so fast that they had to stop all sales on their website. And their adjustment went from like $104 to $170, like $160, $170. So
Man, this has
in
exploded
my
so
mind,
much. This is in just one
yeah,
year. It's crazy.
yeah. And so in my mind, you know, the market looks like it's correcting for the actual true value of silver. And there are indications like the US Mint updating their, like basically freezing sales and updating their pricing over the weekend, that point to higher prices. And, a lot of people I talk to who are in silver and gold are basically like, hey, if it goes down, I'm just buying more. Like, it's not going to stop them from, nobody's selling. It looks like
Right.
nobody's selling. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Well,
but to your point, and even Kobe, Kobe posted on X about topping, and
yeah.
he took a lot of I think he took a lot of his paper, or exited some of his paper, but he left some runners in, he mentioned on a post. So,
Hmm.
you know, but
Yeah, I mean,
also,
I
I think
also
about
gave a sell
pushing into it.
signal. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just saying, but I also, technically exactly what you're saying is, how long can it go straight up? Yeah. Until
Well,
before it reverts back down.
everything you're saying is true, but everything has, you know, thrusts and corrections. Like you could just see on the monthly here, the RSI is overextended and it's starting to go flat. Every time in the past it's gone flat, and sideways down, sideways, up here, same level, right? Started the correction. That's it depends, on a lot of different things, what the position size is, but just from a technical perspective, yeah, this is when you want to capture profits because then when there is probably a reload, right? It'll probably, if it mirrors this, right, every time that it's done it, it's gone overextended like this. It has like a snapback, then people buy it, then people short it. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing cools off a bit just on the chart. But I mean, who knows? Like you said, this might be
Yeah.
that anomaly, that once in a lifetime thing that you guys talked about. I can kind of just look at the charts purely because I did used to own physical silver. I don't own any physical silver anymore, so I'm just like purely uh, looking at coins. I mean, just the chart here. I might own some coins, but not ounces, bars or whatnot. But let's see here.
And there was a thing, I guess, over a couple of weeks ago where the
Excuse me.
Fed had to inject, or I can't remember if it was inject or loan money to a bank that was short silver. And they weren't sharing who exactly it was, but they were basically saying it is a major bank, and if
Mm.
they didn't do that, that they would have gone under, and it would have created probably like a contagion or something like that. And so but on the other hand, news is Denzel Washington once said, you can either not watch the news and be uninformed, or you can watch the news and be misinformed. So I'm always cautious about what I read on the news or hear on the news.
Yeah, it's when you get to a situation like I was in about the portfolio, where I was like, should I go all in or all out or use the quad? I probably should have just kept 25% on the ledger instead of going all out. You know what I mean? So if you're in a position like that with if you're ever wondering about that, it sounds like you have a larger idea and you're okay to withstand a pullback. But um, That's why it's always part of me is like, well, we could get another little bit of a breakout, but then we still have, you know, in my opinion, some serious other problems which we could look at if we just go save and close. This Bitcoin. It just doesn't look at it. It's just eerily like this to me, you know. But let's save to daily. Just zoom out a little bit. And we can see that, this 200 moving average pretty much for this entire bull run has acted as support. And after a potential top here, breaking it, right? And then pulling up into this, I believe this is the 50. And you also notice that during the bull run, the slow one broke around April 23rd beneath the fast one, which was the golden cross, right? That pattern usually is confirming a trend. And this for the first time, you know, is this death cross, which is the inverse of this golden cross, which usually precedes a downtrend. Um, it does suck to think like this and whatever. I mean, I got to say, emotionally, you don't want to be looking at all the negative stuff, but you certainly don't want to be caught off guard with hoping and saying, "What the heck was I doing?" Then you're wondering why you don't have any capital to buy Bitcoin because it broke down here first at 60,000 and for the next 5 to 6 months, and then we had a crazy bullish summer up into the quarter. Just as a possibility, a head and shoulders, and kind of zooming out and thinking about what, like we go to the week. But as far as the daily is concerned, if we just go back one time frame, a little bit of conflicting energy because one of the things that got us in long here, it was giving us slightly with this zero line reject for the volatility contraction that we predicted was going to precede an uptrend because of the zero line reject here, the volatility contraction, the mature balance, we had the breakout, right? And now that we had the breakout, which we predict, the hardest thing is to be nimble and now not be just completely like, well, last time we went sideways and then we went up. Well, yeah, that could happen, but is the same context now? This time we had a clear breakout of this area, right? We went back up into here, but this balance was the same length and time as this balance, roughly speaking. Now this balance is now broken into now what is a giant high volume node that represents this balance, this trend. We acted as support here. We couldn't even get there. When it broke through, we had a swift move down, acted as resistance. Now we're up into. So it's a very important area that we're now testing with a hook from extremes on this 200 reversal pattern with a pullback underneath it where we haven't even had a zero line reject. And what was usually gotten me in the past is I'm always like thinking pullback continuation, the first guy going along under major resistance. And more often than not, I do get stopped out that way. That's kind of my thing where I'm like, okay, I got to go to observer mode. That's one of my things that I do. Some people they'll take one or two losses, they'll take 10 trades in a row that they shouldn't have. My thing is going long under a pullback continuation at major resistance because it's difficult to shift my bias. So now that most of my assets in this asset class are completely off of the grid, in a non-moving asset now, I can now look at this with an open mind. Now, if this blasts on through and the unexpected happens, and this high volume node was not really meant much, now that changes my bias. I say, okay, that is painful to miss that. That is a possibility, but that's when you can just reassess at some point. Because even if we do that, we're still not in the clear, in my opinion, because we still have resistance and other things up ahead that I showed you on the higher time frames as well. And that's why it's always good to have at least something. If you have difficult with the FOMO and that motion overwhelms you and it brings up a lot of things, just keep something on the line like 25%. easier said than done, but I mean, those are very simple principles to satisfy multiple needs, which is, locking in profits, taking in gains, paying your bills, and also potentially participating in an unexpected move. But I mean, I had to just show on multiple time frames the data that I think is showing that we could maybe have a false breakout here almost. This is really the critical area here. Now, just when we zoom out on just this much data, then this high volume node, right, that got us long here, it was almost indicating the rotation up to here, which back up into here, then proceeded to bounce breakout. But then, just seeing angles, right? Look at this trend line, and then zooming out, right? When you get most of the data, it then morphs where the real high volume node is, which is what we just went into. And then now you have a hook from extremes. Now you got to be, then we go on this time frame. You say, well, what's price? Then you can even say, well, how's like smaller time frame price behaving? Well, we kind of had this ugly little island false breakout pattern. It looks really ugly. Just in the past when we've had similar, I mean, anything can happen, right? This was multiple nodes here, but usually when it double top, we go back into it, can get a bigger move down. This we kind of had a double top. Now we're kind of going back up into some shoulder and today's high, where this did hold, but it's just I don't know, a little bit strong. Then all the things I said on those larger time frame charts, where we went back in time and we said more than not, besides that time in 2020 during COVID, when we break below the median line and go back up into it, that usually marks a double top, unfortunately. Now maybe this doesn't go as long as a year because it's more institutions that keep it, or the unexpected happens and all this jibber jabber that I'm saying, and then you're going to be like, okay, everything that I said is objectively true in this snapshot, and then I'm leaning towards a probability. But what if, like, all of a sudden, some institution somewhere decides that Bitcoin's the greatest thing, and then they start buying a lot and breaks the high volume node, and then a bunch of traders get stopped out? But what I'm betting on is that that's the lower odds scenario, and the higher odds scenario is that at some point the institutions that do want to get in, especially the savvy ones from Wall Street and whatnot, would don't really just want to buy and have this thing shoot up and up and up. They want to find areas where they can hit the sell orders of long traders with smaller accounts that aren't institutional level, and then just get good liquidity. First of all, they'll smash it down, and then once they get that area triggered, then they can really buy up at dirt cheap prices. But I just say right now it's good to be on your toes just because of some of those higher time frame things. The monthly not even crossing, us hitting that median line, where the only time we ever broke that anomaly where it wasn't the top for a while where we had a bear market was COVID, and you want to bet on the higher odds frequency scenario. So yeah, I as far as that is, if that scenario does come true and Bitcoin does take a dive, alts are so smashed and have been so smashed for so long. I mean, if there are people selling their Bitcoin, maybe it does spark a slight move into these alternative assets, sort of like the Pirate Chain and the Darrow and the Monero. They got some traction recently because of those isolated events with the Korea's currency, or them getting greenlit again. So that would be interesting itself. But just looking at the patterns, this could be a double top, and then we could have a deeper move down. If this does start to break down, let's get rid of this because it's not really big enough to affect it. Then just be careful, because then this can now form a larger balance, and then this could just get extended now, right? And this would be a false breakout, because odds are when you have a breakout attempt, like it did break this, maybe people were buying here, and then it really reverses, and then they short it again. Odds are then it'll test the lows of the bounce, which see how this took like a week or so, and even a half a week here to get to the low, and then it went up. That could happen. So that's what I think might be happening right now. But because of where we are on the daily, this isn't just happening near like some lows, like near 20,000 that's going sideways, and I'm just gonna this is happening near potential, where all the people that missed out in 100,000 got 2,000, got almost close to 100K a couple of days ago. That's a special number where it acted as resist support here, or resistance here. I mean, this is a super strong inflection point. And just having the tools to see that, then you can make important decisions like I'm going to capture 50 to even 100% of your profits. I would say on all the Bitcoin and Ethereum that I oversee, it maybe like 90% is off, and maybe it should have been like 75. But that's because the alts are also super exposed. So got to capture when it is in. But like I said, even if we get a pull up to here, I mean, we have other problems where if it does start building sideways action around here, that'll be this shoulder, that'll be that shoulder, and then the pattern says we're going to go down. If you look at how that bigger picture pattern might play out. If we do go down, I think that the next area would be around this high volume node, which dwarfs this one. And I think at that point, they would get, if anything, into the 60 to 50, even 70 something range gets scooped up. That's good. That would get scooped up. But just imagine this, if it does break like 74 here, you do have a bigger picture balance breakdown. So even if people are buying here, this will be going most likely almost like a sideways thing for, could go 5 to 6 months. But eventually, I think this could hold. And then we'd have a larger balance to break from, and then maybe that's when we get price discovery into next year, sparking a 2027 bull run. This is just that bearish scenario. If we get some kind of crazy directional conviction, which breaks the high volume node unexpectedly, and everything looks, crazy, that's a different story. But at the same time, the fact is Bitcoin is sort of having a mediocre day, and the alts, a lot of them are having pretty spectacular days, which I haven't really remembered that. Not that I had like the broadest portfolio here, but there's some. What's Dot doing? Yeah, I mean Dot's doing usually, and Theta would, if Bitcoin wasn't doing well, Theta wouldn't be doing well at all, kind of a thing. And you could see it doing pretty well. Let's take a look. Or just a different pattern. I mean, these are so dirt cheap. That's why it's like people saying, well, how are you, if Bitcoin crashes here, aren't you going to like sell all your Theta? I'm like, it can't go any lower. I don't care at this point. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like it's more stressful just to move it and stop staking it. At this point, I'm not, and some of them are going to just get totally exposed and weeded out. I mean, that's just the nature of the fire. See, if it was making this really shallow pullback and we had some separation like this and this, that would be a much better for the Bulls in terms of the prior momentum category on the daily call, and of course the CCI category, right? But as it stands, right, the hook from extreme is sort of like it's just mirroring price now, right? With no sort of, it's in no man's land. It's a 50-50 thing right now. And just from that higher time frame perspective, just going to that again. Let's see what it says for alts. You see, the alts are just completely different context right now. I mean, these, when it separates from the bearish lowest extension to the mean, with time, then it goes from the down to sideways, and then the up market, right? Then down. So different context. Let's go what theta is doing. Take a look here. Same thing. They're so, while Bitcoin is in a completely different, like, wow, super, really nice. If we even take a look at silver, we already did that with silver overextended. Got to have some of these coins are so new, there's not enough data to even get anything on this one. So, yeah, where are you, Kevin? Have you made any position changes on any of your assets, given where Bitcoin is, or
Um, Not really. Most of my stuff is day trading, so I'm usually in and out.
Mhm.
I have not I've not gotten to the point where I'm going over a day time frame in terms of my entries and exits. So everything else is, retirement based. It's a blend of diversified, some real estate stuff, some precious metals, some stocks, like silver gold miners, and long term yield stocks and things like that. But I haven't made any significant changes. I had alts. I kind of like what you were saying. I had a ton of alts, and they doubled, tripled, and I should have taken some more profits off than I did, and I
Yeah.
didn't. And now they're now they're back to their stable lows, and so I'm hoping for another alt season, which it almost looked like we were going to have there for a second, and then I'll start probably taking some profits out off of those.
I mean, if it, this is just like one day of this so far, but I mean, when Bitcoin's having a mediocre day and then these things are actually doing well, that hasn't happened in a dog's age. But just look how the S&P behaves around this as well, too. It gets too extended from the mean and leg count, reverts back to the mean. This was this year, but just it's just easier to trade than cryptocurrencies. I mean, stocks and I mean, it's a lot easier to trade. I mean, just look at how easier the pullbacks are, where these are just chop chop. Some of these channels work really well too. You could see the the double tops. This is a trickier context, just because it's not over. It's almost like, are we really? It's almost like, if you're betting that this resistance will hold, or at least around it, you're thinking, okay, we're gonna have a pullback, sideways down, continuation pattern, at least, and get somewhere here. But if we go a little bit farther out, in COVID, we had a V recovery, and that pattern didn't work. In 2022, it did work. This in 2026, it remains to be seen whether it'll work. Um, in July 2018, it worked. I wish I had a crystal ball that worked. It would be better than this. But we got to make a decision with these magic lights. At least this is exactly what happened. It's better than the rumors or Eric Trump saying you'll never be able to buy below 90K again. I'm like, I just did that. You know what I mean? I bought below 90K. We bought, and then went up to 95 or so and swing traded it out. But yeah, anytime they say that, I'm like, man, they really are shilling it. But I think the thing that just when I saw this, and I just went over here and I said, wow, that looks similar. Right? And we haven't gotten below, we haven't done something like this for a bit, and everything kind of reverts back to it eventually. And we are past the 4-year thing. We're just like, hey, we didn't have a bull run in alts. Like, the 4-year cycle is not up. Like, a lot of people have that bias. I kind of do too, but if this is right and it mirrors this, we're talking it goes up here, pops down, breaks below this, then it goes red for this length of time, and this would take us to November 2026.
What's interesting to me is that all the major banks and institutions and sovereign wealth funds and ETF creators, everybody's pouring billions and billions and billions, probably trillions of dollars into Bitcoin, and the
Mhm.
price is going down. It's like if there
Yeah,
was ever a time for it to go up and keep going up, you would think that this was it. But it's just,
yeah.
the technicals, it's like the technicals and what's actually happening or what people are publishing that they're doing
It's like
that's
you got to ask
happening
yourself
are completely disconnected.
all the people that you mentioned that maybe want to buy. It's like, is that going to be more volume than all the OGs that are super happy, all the retail guys, just people that are like, whoa, whoa, and like, look at my psychology. I was moving and going through some trauma with some family, even though I knew there were sell signals up here, and I kept saying to my technician, like, we're going to sell. Can we do it on ledger? I'm like, we should be selling. I should be selling more. So I knew to sell, but just whatever. And then it's like, part of me is like, if it ever gets close to 100, I'm selling again. You know what I mean? Just to have that.
Yeah.
And here it is, like, to get out as it's breaking down, reloading down here near the lower 80s, popping up into the median line. I mean, we haven't tested this median line since September 2023. I mean, that's major resistance now that we broke through. And, to even break above it, right? It didn't act as resistance here, but it took like a major length of time, to have this reversal where it broke above it and then it acted as support, really good support. But after two vicious volatile tops, I mean, does this not look really similar? Then we broke through it. Now we're going here and now we're going to go down. So it's like, and this is in alignment with, some of the more fundamentalist guys that say, hey, we'll have an alt season in 2027. That's when it's really going to get crazy. I'm like, that does suck. I don't want that. Like, it doesn't make sense, but we kind of did have a Bitcoin bull run already. We just didn't get alt season. But it could be a situation where if Bitcoin does do something where if it fails here, starts to go sideways, let's say it even breaks this, then we're talking, somewhere here, and then that would be the bear, right? And then what that would do is then we create this, and then that would be the trend breakout where we get to like 200,000 or something, and then that would be towards next year. And no one wants that because it's like a lot of us have been investing in these projects for a while, and a lot of us are just sitting here like the excitement around this stuff when it was out was incredible. And now it's like, well, how could something be such this fledgling industry have such brightness and energy to it? And now it's completely dead. It's shocking. So I'm thinking, is it really dead? Like, Polkadot was created by, or at least one of the creators was Gavin Woods, who created one of the programmers on Ethereum. I mean, what's this project doing? I mean, they're all kind of like this. I mean, just absolutely destroyed. But then you got to ask yourself, like, who's manipulating the price here to get that type of,
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, what do you expect? You got 1,600%. Um, and a lot of coins look like that. I mean, it's like they were all sort of these engineered to, look at that terrible coin. Just,
It reminds me of the .com era
yeah,
when there were you know, all these .coms that came out before they knew what it was, and everybody just piled money into it, and the ones that were left standing were the ones that were left with value.
yeah,
The ones that were actually creating value, excuse me, were the ones that ultimately were left standing. I think that'll happen in alts, and the ones that are not, they don't actually do anything, they'll go to zero.
yeah. I mean, I've had two of my own in my portfolio go to zero. KDA, Cadena Network, which apparently was a thriving ecosystem. And LTO Network, which bragged about having Wall Street and United Nations connections. And got to about a $500 million market cap. It's like, what the heck? Those incredible scams. And those people should, be brought to justice for that. Maybe they will. But, you know, a lot of these were, optimism. I mean, wow, like, November got to $5 and now less than, I mean, what is this? Everyone's pulling out of this. What is it? And what is it supposed to do? No one knows. And the institutions don't care about these coins. They're not stupid enough to buy them. They have leverage. They'll go into safe assets. I mean, are there going to be a few alternative assets that do that? Of course. Like, some say this coin might do it because it's tied to brokerage houses and it's going to be tokenizing stocks. But it's not the only one that's going to be doing it in town. The guy that told me about it also was bragging about Ondo, and now it says this one's better. It's like, well, maybe tomorrow he changes his mind based on some criteria that I don't know or care about. And it's more, and also look, Theta was supposed to be decentralized video sharing and was going to be, decentralizing infrastructure, DPIN, and it seems like bandwidth physical infrastructures have pivoted and now it's cheaper anyway. So now it's not viable. So they've pivoted into AI and chatbots. And it's like, okay, they're at universities. How are they going to actually make money at this? And they're saying, well, a lot of these projects in the past started off in universities and then those people knew how to program with it. They went into companies, then the companies struck up deals. There was talks that Polkadot was going to be Polkadot was going to have a deal with TikTok, and this guy McCormick, who's this billionaire, was going to be facilitating it. And now I searched for it, and there's barely anything about it. I'm like, what the truck was that? I got excited about because that had a heck of a run as well. I mean, Say was another one we were really excited about in 2024 got to $1.15 and now it's at 12 cents. I mean, if they ever even return to that, I mean, if you have the guts to go in right now on some of these, they're pretty good returns. Obviously, wouldn't bet a lot of money foolishly because you never know. Matic that transformed into Pole. I'm still holding that. That's from some lawsuit money. I mean, it's like, what's that going to do? Probably, who knows? Render, I think I did on that, but I sold it. Op, still hold some of that. Ondo, not sure, I can't remember. Yes, unfortunately. I mean, look what this one did. This one got to an absurd 519. But you could see like the bear and the sideways and the down markets are so long, and the euphoria lasts maybe like a month or two, and then you're done. So yeah, I mean, when things go huge amounts, just take profits and don't think about it. It's easy for me to say that, like take profits here. I would if I had some silver, but maybe I would feel different if I'd be reading about silver, thinking about what would it be in 5 years and what if I'm wrong. But when you don't have any, it's easy to see things clearly. I mean, here's another one that I recommended people would take some profits in, and going up, but that's not the point. The point is to not necessarily be right, but think about when is it okay, it's not going up on this time frame, but the idea is that yeah, at one point I said, hey, here's a V sideways dip go pattern, but then I was basically saying because it's not at the bottom of a trend and more at the potentially higher leg count of a trend, you still need to take profits. And how much higher can it go? I mean, here's a V sideways dip go. Here's a V sideways dip go, but after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I mean 8 leg counts up. When we had like this hook from extreme. So what I was basically telling folks is that take profits on your portfolio. You never know. I mean, it might not be at this price again for a while. Another reason too is that if you want to think of this as a balance that once when we recover, when the V broke, when the V broke from the bounce, you had a bounce breakout, right? And they do tend to move about 100%, right, of the range that they broke from. And while we're not at technically 100% of the range we broke from, just erring on the side of caution, in terms of risk reward, are you willing to risk, let's just say, down to here for this much more? I mean, that was sort of how I look at the logic of why I took Bitcoin profits. Because it's like, I'm obviously going to be very up into here. If I was holding that position up into here, I'm going to be taking profits. And that's what, 25, 30,000 more points. That's significant for the position size. But, the downside is that if we fail here, I mean, we can crash down to 70,000, if we break down at this 79 to 74 level here. We could get right back into this high volume node, because when price reverts back from the node, too far from a high volume node, they tend to revisit the high volume nodes. And at that point, that is a amazing place for the market to go sideways and potentially reverse and reload there, because, I mean, look, it's marking several highs in the past. Just a lot of confluence there. But as it stands, it's risky to continue, especially since some of my reloaded positions are kind of close to this position, where it's like, um, as an independent idea for a swing trade, it's not like I bought some of that was purchased, on the way up here, that was sold here as this was coming down. But then when I reloaded up into these pullbacks here, because I said on first test this could hold, but up here we could have a problem. This is so much closer than if I bought that position, let's say down at 30,000. But so it's always good to think about not what it will do, but what's the risk reward in play here, because you want to think in terms of not necessarily accuracy, but expectancy, which is thinking about like how much more I can get out of this if I happen to be right. And and accuracy in terms of a long-term thinking is like, how is this idea going to make me enough money? If I took this trade a lot of the time, is it going to make me money over the long run? If it's no, then don't do it. Even if you're thinking like, well, this time I missed it, and this time I think if I break a rule, um, I'll luck out. That'll be the time you don't. So as we're wrapping up here, I just want to just go get a feel for how price is moving on these lower time frames. Yeah, I mean, just within the last 3 4 days here. Now, granted, this isn't a daily pattern, but you have a shoulder, you have a head, and then you have this shoulder building, which that was enough of a 3 to 4 day pattern where, at least for a day trade, to at least say, okay, maybe it'll revisit the low of the day or the VWAP. For example, I am short right now. I gave that trade in the channel. I could take off half and be out of the risk right now. I don't think I did, or I am gonna. I can't remember, because there was another short that I took that I forgot to update everybody that I got stopped out of break even, and then I went long again, short again. But that's just because of this smaller time frame, the way it behaved here, the fact that we might not break out of it, some of those larger time frame ideas, and yeah, I don't want to be the guy in the channel that's poo-pooing on the hopium, but I just try to look at these facts, and I think that we're in a potentially very serious spot. If Bitcoin doesn't do something incredible to the upside, it can get pretty bad. So, yeah, that is my 2 cents here, Kevin. And we'll be wrapping this
Thank
up.
you.
Yep, you're the man. Take care now.
All right. Catch you in the chat.
Yeah.